Yeah, that gray pipe there. And it's just a regular elbow joint of a pipe, and the stingrays, our spotted eagle rays, know to go toward it to get their food. So their goal is to come around and touch the pipe with their nose, and then they'll get a food reward. So let's see if our first stingray is going to do that. It's a nice food reward. And this is our spotted eagle ray. So this is pretty easy to tell apart from the rest of them. They have the white spots on the top of their back. And the reason they want to get to the food is, well, a lot of animals do enjoy food, so they are coming here for their positive reinforcement. And this actually allows the stingrays to have a good time while getting their food. So positive reinforcement is a fancy way of saying that these animals are really happy with getting the food that we give them, so that they'll come back for more things, like if we have to give them checkups or trim down their barbs, if they get a little bit too long, and we can always make them readily come toward Maude if we have to do anything with them. Which is actually really amazing, because if you look at this tank, it's actually pretty big. And we don't want to chase the animals through the whole tank. So it's better if they come up here and just come readily over to where Maude is. So today she is enticing them upstairs, not only with the pipe, but she has some yummy food. So Maude has some live clam and some squid and some bonito. So I'm going to get a good look at that food bucket in a second once the stingrays. Oh, there's some squid. Yeah, so this is our largest of the spotted eagle rays. This is the only girl. So there's 2 boys and 1 girl, and one of the boys is quite a bit bigger than the other one. She's our largest, but they do get bigger than that. So she's probably bigger than this now, but she's 62 centimeters, which is, if you take a big ruler and put it end to end with another one, that's how big she is. And these 2 are the 2 males. They both came up at the same time. And that smaller one, that's a little bit farther away from me, that one was born in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And the other 2 are from the wild. And that small one, we actually know how old he is. He's around 3.5. The other 2, we're from the wild, so we don't really know how old they are.
Did they just drop out of that call? Yep. Hopefully they'll be rejoining us. Sorry about that, everyone. I don't know what happened. Oh.
No, I left the call.
Yeah, okay, you're back. You're good.
Okay. I'm sorry. What happened? So, welcome back. Other than the 3 spotted eagle rays that we have in here, there are a whole bunch of other stingrays that are going to be coming up, especially our cow-nose rays. That's the ones that are mostly around Maude right now. There are 37 of them, so there's quite more than our 3 spotted eagle rays. And they like to come up because, well, they haven't eaten yet today, and they are pigs. So they want to get food all the time, and they really don't mind what type of food they want. So they're going to come even if they are not the biggest fans of bonito and squid, but bonito and squid are one of the stingrays' favorite foods. So Maude here is our stingray keeper, and oh, look, there's a shark. So there are 6 bonded head sharks in here. Don't worry. She's not afraid of them, nor should we be. Sharks are really not as dangerous as we think, and neither are stingrays. So I actually have some cool things to show you today, other than the lovely stingrays eating. We have some barbs, so I'm just going to move the camera down so you can see them. So a barb is the stinger of a stingray. So this one here is from a spotted eagle ray, and this one here is from a special stingray that has a curled tail. So she has a little bit of a different barb. It's a little bit curled. And if you look closely at the barbs, they actually have these little serrations on the back, which allow them to go very easily into predators if they get scared. But stingrays don't like using their barbs. They only use them if they think they're going to die, out of dire need of their own survival. So they would rather not use it because it takes 3 to 6 months to grow back. And stingrays don't want to use their barb if it takes that long to grow back. Our spotted eagle rays actually all have 2 barbs, but we trim them down here at our aquarium for the safety of our divers, anybody coming and visiting, because this is actually a touch tank, so you can put your hands in the water and touch our stingrays here. And also for the other animals that they happen to live with. So there's a couple fish in here as well. And these animals, I did mention that they were getting live clam today, and that actually helps them with their teeth. So these animals have special teeth that are dermal plates, dental plates. So if you look at the one on my hand, that's one from a spotted eagle ray. There you go, it's out of the shadow now. So it's really big, and they lose them, and they lose them all the time, just like sharks do. So stingrays and sharks are closely related animals, and they lose their teeth throughout their lifetime, which allows them to always work properly. And these guys really like eating live clam because they can sense the clam when Maude has it in her hand, because it's still alive, so it still has a heartbeat. So these animals can actually sense pulse beats in the water and small motion movements. And that's mainly because a spotted eagle ray and all other stingrays and sharks can sense electric impulses in the water. It's called electroreception. So these animals can find food hidden underneath the sand. So if you look closely at our spotted eagle rays right now, they actually have a big snout. And there's one coming towards us. So it's a big snout in the front of their face, and that big snout is actually used in order to dig through the sand in order to find their food. And it's filled with a whole bunch of sensors. And they're actually really good at digging through the sand. It's very flexible too. Other than the spotted eagle rays having that, the cow-nose rays also have a mouth-like, it's not a mouth, but it's a structure in the front of their body that looks a lot like a mouth, and it's just fins, and they are using that to dig through the sand to find their food. Here, they don't really do that because we feed our stingrays, but in the wild, they have to find their own food. There's another spotted eagle ray coming up. Now, the spotted eagle rays are my favorite type of stingray, and I'm pretty sure they're Maude's favorite type of stingray. Yeah, they are. And they're amazing and very beautiful. And the really cool thing about a spotted eagle ray, there's one right over there, is you can actually tell them apart by their dot patterns. So if you look at the food that Maude has right here, Maude has a little blue thing in the middle, and that is meant to separate all the food for each of the 3 stingrays. So the 3 spotted eagle rays are getting a different amount of food each. And Maude can easily tell apart the 3 stingrays, not only because of their size, because the lady is quite a bit larger than the 2 boys, but they have different spot patterns, and you can use that to actually identify wild stingrays by just photographs. They're beautiful. So other than this small male, which is right here, who was born at Gatlinburg, Tennessee, which is one of our other Ripley's aquariums, the other 2 were captured from the wild in Florida, and that was in 2014. So they've been here, well, they've only been at our aquarium since July, and however, they've been with us for quite a while. They just hadn't come to our aquarium yet. They have to go through a little bit of quarantine before they come to our aquarium to make sure they're not bringing in any germs from the wild. Now, there are, other than the 2 types of stingrays and the bonnet-head sharks in here, there are 2 other types of stingrays that have yet to come upstairs, and they probably won't, because they're still sleeping. It's still early in the morning. They haven't been fed yet, and they're not as eager to have food like the cow-nose rays. And there's the southern stingrays, which are really large, and they might come up here, and the rough-tail rays, and there's only 2 of the rough-tails, and they probably will not come up here, because they very rarely come up here anyway. And I like to refer to them as the grumpy old men of the tank, because they're old and they don't like coming up here, and they only like a few people. But the cow-noses, they're a lot like dogs. So they want to eat all the time and come and say hi. And they're the most often ones that are up here. There's a cow-nose right there. You can tell the difference easily between a cow-nose and a spotted eagle ray because of the shape of their head. And cow-nose ray has a blunt shape to their head, kind of like a cow's nose, so they got their name. And a spotted eagle ray gets their name because they look like an eagle, and they have a pointed snout. And these ones are Aetobatus, so that actually just means fat ray, and they are this diamond shape to their bodies, which is very beautiful, allows them to swim through the water really well, and they actually are not the ones that stay at the bottom a lot. They live in the water column, so they are not going to spend a lot of time resting on the bottom. They are very active stingrays, very fast, very aerodynamic, and the largest of these is over there on the wall. You can see that. That's a manta ray, and that one is the largest one ever recorded at over 7 meters wide, which is really large. These guys are much smaller, but they're all really closely related. The other types of stingrays we have are a different type, and they are a round type of stingray, and they spend most of their time at the bottom. So they hide under the sand, and they're the ones that most people, when you get that, you've heard of people stepping on a stingray, it's usually the rounder ones that are hanging out at the bottom under the sand. And obviously animals don't enjoy being stepped on, so if you step on a stingray, it is possible that they will sting you, and that they use their barb for that, but again, they don't actually want to use their barb. They only use it out of dire need of their own survival. There's another one of them. Very beautiful. Now, we are hoping that these spotted eagle rays actually do have babies here at our aquarium, but they're just too young right now. So we'll foster them here, and at some point, hopefully they will have babies like our cow-nose rays do right now. Last year, we actually had 12 cow-nose rays, and 3 of them are still hanging around in here, and they are just over a year old right now. The other ones have gone off to other aquariums. And if you can see in the background, way over where the buoy is, that's actually where our large sharks live. So this lovely aquarium here is actually the largest indoor aquarium in Canada. It's the only Canadian Ripley's aquarium, and it's also got 16,000 aquatic animals, and it's around 500 different species. So it's 500. That's 5,000 different species. So there's a lot of different animals hanging out in here. And we are pretty close to the end of the aquarium right now, but we have a Canadian water section that features a lot of our beautiful Canadian animals here. And we also have our lovely shark tunnel. Tropical waters, an area where kids can go and interact with animals. And we have more than just this as a touch tank. We have our sharks, which is just over to the side over that way. And we have this one, our stingrays. We have our horseshoe crabs downstairs, and our cleaner shrimp, which eats the dead skin off your hands. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about was how we can help these animals in the wild. And the easiest way to help a stingray is actually to eat sustainably. So I know that's a really difficult thing to understand, but stingrays are really important to the ecosystem, and they get accidentally caught in fishing nets a lot, mainly because they don't always see what's happening in front of them, and fishing nets come out of nowhere, and sometimes they're just left as garbage in the water. So to help our stingrays out, we can start eating sustainably, and at the aquarium we support OceanWise, which is a app that allows you to figure out which fish to choose, and that was started at the Vancouver Aquarium, but there's many more out there, and it allows us to hopefully choose fish and food from the grocery store that is not the ones that would accidentally catch our stingrays, so that we can help them out in the wild. And if you do come and visit us, you'll get a chance to touch these lovely animals, and they are actually slimy, which is different from all of our other touch tanks here at the aquarium.
All right, so you're good for some questions now, Danielle?
Sure, we can do questions.
Awesome. All right, so we're gonna go from classroom. We'll do a few rounds of questions because we have some time. So we'll start with Mrs. Campbell's classroom. Turn you guys up. Do you have any questions?
Yes,
Yes.
Eric. How much can stingrays eat?
How much can stingrays eat?
How much can stingrays eat? That is a really good question. They can eat a lot. So our cow-nose rays, because I told you they're pigs, they will actually just not stop eating because they're just big. So Mo says that they give the cow-nose 10 pounds of food a day, which there are 37 of them. So there's a lot going in. And the spotted eagle rays, they get fed. How many times do you feed them, Maude?
I do it twice a day. In total, they will get 2.6 pounds.
Oh, 2.6 pounds, and we feed them twice a day.
21 pounds a day.
And the southerns get 21 pounds a day, but they are a much larger type of stingray.
Awesome.
But if we,
all right, great question. Oh.
No, go ahead.
Oh. All right, so we'll move on to Mrs. Carlson's class. Do you guys have a question?
My name is Jude. What is the wingspan of a
Good
What
question.
is a wingspan of an eagle ray?
Yep.
Okay, so the largest one ever recorded was 330 centimeters. So if you take a meter stick and you triple it and a little bit more, that is how big that is, which is quite large, much larger than the ones we have here. And our largest is 62 centimeters across, or at least she was when she was measured around a year ago. And the smallest one, he's around 46 centimeters across. So that's like a big ruler. Or, sorry, there's a lot of Americans. That's a foot and a half is 46 centimeters, and 2 feet is 62 centimeters.
That's pretty big.
And the largest one would be 9 feet across. That's crazy.
That is crazy. All right. Edgar's class, do you guys have a question?
How did they get their name?
How did they get their name?
Oh, how did they get their name Spotted Eagle Ray? So these guys, they have white dots on the top of their bodies, and that's actually unique for a stingray. And that's how they got their name Spotted Eagle Ray. And they get the name Eagle because they actually have this nice pointed snout. Thank you for showing that off. Beautiful stingray. And the one really weird thing about these stingrays is we actually don't know too much about them. So we don't know how long they live, and we also don't know if these animals are all of one type of species. So we're actually doing a lot of genetic tests, not here at the aquarium, but scientists are doing genetic tests to figure out how many different species groups they might be a part of. So right now we refer to them as a species complex because they might be maybe 4 different species of stingrays just all lopped into one category because they look similar. And they live all around the world.
Does your class have a question?
Anthony, go ahead.
How many species of stingrays are they?
Are there in the world?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
How many species of stingrays are there in the world? And I think it's probably around 200 or 300 different species, because something like that, yeah. Because the amount of sharks is around 400 different species, so it's probably around the same area as that. But it's always going to be growing because we don't really know. There's always new animals that we can find out there, and you guys, if you become divers or oceanographers in your future, you might get a chance to find some of these new stingrays in the wild.
Awesome. And then we have one class that joined us a little later, Mrs. Lefberg? I'm terrible with names. I apologize. You guys have a question? You can unmute your mic. Doesn't want to do so. Unmute. Why? Oh, there we go.
Hi.
Right.
Sorry,
Hello.
can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly.
Okay. Sorry, we're a little late this morning. We had freezing rain, so we're all just sort of trickling in after our normal. We do have a question, if I can get Mitchell up here. All right. Come on.
All right. Hello, my name is Mitchell.
Hi.
What do you feed your stingray?
What do we
feed
our stingray? Yeah? Okay, so today we are feeding them live clam, squid, and bonito. And bonito is a small version of a tuna. And we usually feed them a lot of different types of clam, mahi, which is a type of fish, and shrimp. And apparently they love shrimp. And that's mostly what they would get in the wild too. So they like to eat shellfish, and so that's like, and they like squid a lot, and live clam. Live clam is one of the ones we try to feed them the most because they really enjoy it. Right.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. We can do another round of questions. So we can start again with Mrs. Campbell's class if you guys have a second
Doing another round.
to ask. Can you repeat that?
How much do they usually weigh?
How much do they usually weigh?
How much do they usually weigh? So these guys, they, that is the wrong. So I actually have it written down. Ah. Okay, so these ones were measurements were taken about a year ago, but the girl, she's around 50 pounds. And the big boy is around 36 pounds, and the little boy is about 22 pounds. So they aren't as heavy as we are, at least they're about half the size of me. But our largest stingray that we have is 200 pounds. Actually, more than that. He's just under 220.
And what species is that?
That's our rough-tailed stingray. So he's a hefty boy.
All right,
but
so
he's also huge.
We can move on to Mrs. Carlson's class.
My name is Oliver, and what do they use their barbs for?
What do they use their barbs for?
What do they use their barbs for? They use their barbs for defense. So if they get spooked or they get stepped on or scared, they will use their barb. But again, they will only use it if they feel like they're going to die and it's a dire need of their own survival. And where it's located on their body, it's about a foot down their tail on the larger stingrays that we see downstairs. And then on these ones, it's where the tail and the body meet on the top. So you'll have a tough time trying to find ours because we trim down their barbs, but they don't like using it. And their barb actually isn't venomous enough to harm anything. It's just meant to stun them. So it's not meant to kill, it's just meant to stun. Anytime a human has died by a stingray, it goes into a vital organ. So if you get a puncture wound with those barbs that I showed you before, in your heart, there's a not very good chance that you're going to survive because it is going to hurt a lot and it's still like in your heart, which is an organ you need in order to survive. However, most often people do survive to tell the tale because it goes into their legs.
All right, then we'll have Mrs. Agner's class. Do you have any questions?
How large can their barbs grow?
Oh, how large can their barbs grow? So they can grow really big. There, look at Maude, she's showing us. It's species dependent though. So,
That would be the
southern stingrays can get that big, but the cow-nose rays, as you can see, because they're so much tinier, their barbs are probably not going to get that long. Yeah, just tinier.
Yes.
Animal are their predators?
So what animal are their predators?
That's a really good question. So these animals, their main predators are sharks, actually. And the hammerhead shark, the great hammerhead, is one of the ones that specializes in these animals. The little bonnet heads that we have in here are not a type of hammerhead. Sorry, they are a type of hammerhead, but they're not like a tiny hammerhead. They're just a small species of hammerhead, so they're not actually going to grow any bigger than this one. The great hammerhead's the one that's really big. So these guys are bonnet head sharks, like squid, a lot, actually. They're not going to try to eat a stingray.
Awesome. And then we can do one more question from Mrs. Lefber's class. Oh, yeah.
Do they ever sting anybody? And what does it feel like?
Do they ever sting anybody, and what does it feel like? So we try to make sure that that does not happen here because we trim down their barbs and we're very careful. But do you know how it feels like?
Yeah, I do. It will hurt.
It hurts a lot. So it's actually it's like being stung by a big bee, and you have to go to the hospital afterward because it's going to go in real easy, but in order to take it out, they have to use surgical tools to do that, or else one of the little bits of the barb could get stuck in your leg or something, and then it takes a lot longer. It's like a splinter that you can't get out.
That sounds painful. Do you or Maude have a favorite type of stingray?
Oh yeah, our favorite type of stingray is the spotted eagle ray.
And do you have a favorite
really
type
pretty.
of animal at the aquarium?
My favorite type of animal at the aquarium is the bicolor goatfish, which is a tiny little fish that digs through the sand with these little whiskers that it has under its chin. And it lives in our live coral tank. Maude, what's your favorite animal at the aquarium? It's between the spotted eagle rays and the bonnet head sharks, which both live in this tank that she looks after.
How long has she been looking after those animals?
Maude, how long have you been looking after these animals?
I've been taking care of them for 2 years now.
2 years. 2 years.
And do they all have their own personalities? Has she noticed after working for that long with them?
Hey, Maude, have you noticed that they all have different personalities?
They do actually.
They do have different personalities.
Yeah, really. That's interesting.
They're very friendly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that brings us to the end of our hangout. So I'm going to unmute everyone. You guys can all big yell, let us.
Oh, don't yell as loud.
Gracias, señorita.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to Danielle and Maude for joining us, too.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
No problem.